Who is Soren Kierkegaard? Kierkegaard was born on May 5, 1813 in Copenhagen, Denmark, and died on November 11, 1855. He was a profound and prolific writer in the Danish golden age of intellectual and artistic activity. His work crosses the boundaries of philosophy, theology, psychology, literary criticism, devotional literature, and fiction. He is also known as the father of existentialism, and for Kierkegaard, human existence follows a developmental path. Kierkegaard's spheres of existence. In the pseudonymous works of Kierkegaard's first literary period, there are three stages on life's way, or three spheres of existence. It is the aesthetic, the ethical, and the religious life. Let's talk about the aesthetic life. It is also known as the stage of immediacy. It is the realm of sensory experience and pleasures, and it is solely defined by pleasures. In order to live the aesthetic life to the fullest, one must seek to maximize those pleasures, and increasing one's aesthetic pleasures is one way to combat boredom, and Kierkegaard described many methods of doing so. The importance of the aesthetic life is acknowledged, but it is also presented as an immature stage. The aesthete is only concerned with his or her personal enjoyment, and because aesthetic pleasure is so fleeting, an aesthete has no solid framework from which to make coherent, consistent choices. Eventually, the pleasures of the aesthetic wear thin, and one must begin seeking the ethical pleasures instead. The ethical life actually offers certain pleasures the aesthetic life cannot. An aesthete can never do something solely for the good of someone else, but we all know that doing things for others without personal motives can actually be incredibly enjoyable. Aesthetic life is usually devoted to a temporal goal, such as power, money, sex, status, career, hobbies, and many more.
So Kierkegaard's ethical life is when a person reaches the ethical stage, they have moved past their aesthetically oriented way of operation and started to abide by the social norms. Obligation take precedence over inclination. So we feel a sense of obligation towards others, both specific people and people in general. We have grown children, animals, jobs, co-workers, as well as mature friends. At this point, the moral man is forced to take a vital part, not just in the development of the way he lives. Every person faces questions about how they should spend their lives, what behavior should be pursued or avoided, what character traits should be worn, and what is good and evil. So the ethical must be understood as a facet of all human lives. So the immediate life is merely a series of moments in the ethicist's eyes. According to him, the static self is illogical and hardly qualifies as a true self at all. So thus, living an ethical life is a battle to unity oneself in two ways. So the next part is the Kierkegaard's religious life. So according to Kierkegaard, the religious level of life is the highest stage of existence that humans might aspire to reach. So it is well known that Kierkegaard was a Christian. So the religious stage, however, is not really tied to anyone, God or set of beliefs. So that is not the issue. So instead, it's about moving through the first two stages of existence and onto something meaningful and pulsing. In a more specific sense, a religious person is someone who has learned about the challenges of developing an integrated self and has a lost faith in God relation as an objective that can be attained via action. So instead, religious person views themselves as having some sort of brokenness and finds hope in their relationship with God. So this last phase calls for a more like a leap of faith. This required regard to put his confidence in deity. So however, the traits of the jump may and in the opinion should be applied to other things. The act of taking a leap of faith entails accepting beliefs in something you might not able to convince other people of. So it entails a certain kind of faith, or to use a less loaded term, confidence that springs from underlying passion and excitement.
So, pre-conventional level. Pre-conventional morality is the earliest theory of moral development. It lasts until around the age of 9. So, at this stage, children's decisions are primarily shaped by expectation of adults and the consequence of breaking the rules. So there are two types or two stages in pre-conventional morality. So in the first stage, moral reasoning is based on the concept of punishment. The child believes that if the consequence of an action is punishment, then the action was wrong. For example, in stage 1, focus is on self-interest and punishment is avoided. The man shouldn't steal the drug as he may get caught and go to jail. So in the stage 2, the children bases his or her thinking on self-interest and reward. For example, rewards are sought. A person at this level will argue that the man should steal the drug because he does not want to lose his wife who takes care of him. So the second level is the conventional level. It's the second stage and occurs during adolescence and adulthood. During this stage, individuals begin to develop personal moral codes by internalizing the rules of adult models. There is no questioning of these norms and rules during this stage. They are adopted and not critiqued. So there are 3 and 4 stage in the conventional level. So in stage 3, the person wants to please others. For example, focus is how situational outcomes impact others and wanting to please and be accepted. So the situation is the man should steal the drugs because that is what good husbands do. While in the stage 4, the person acknowledges the importance of social norms and laws and wants to be a good member of the group or society. So in this situation, people make decisions based on the formalized rules. So if the man should obey the laws because stealing is a crime.
At the post-conventional level, the individual moves beyond the perspective of his or her own society. For example, an individual might believe that healthcare is a basic human right basis on their own moral code, even if that is not codified in their country's laws or social conventions.